Yo, what's good everybody? My name is Jay Fatty. Welcome back to another video. We're going to continue the How to Sample in FL Studio series, and we're moving on to the first third-party plugin in the series, Serato Sample, alright? This plugin is some sauce. If you haven't seen my other ways to sample in FL Studio, make sure you check the playlist at the top right. It will take you to that. We're going to get right into this. Here's the song that we're sampling today. It's by Pope Flynn. I don't know how to say this name and I don't want to butcher it, but I'll link it down in the description. It's really weird. At least the cover art's weird, but it's got some vibes. Alright, so we'll just drag the track into Serato. Now, the cool thing about Serato is you could just find samples. You click this button, it will find chops for you, which is really dope. It takes out a lot of the work. First thing I'm going to do is bring the pitch down 3 semitones. We're already in 88 BPM and it tells us right here what the original BPM is. Don't worry, it's already going to automatically stretch it to whatever your master BPM is. So that's really nice. You don't have to worry about stretching. As long as the song isn't super wonky, it's going to work really well. It's going to stretch it to BPM well, and it's going to be able to analyze it nicely, as long as there's not a bunch of different BPM changes and key switches. So it gave us this first marker here. I'm actually just going to drag it to the front. I already know I want this front part of the sample. If I zoom in, I can drag. We can make sure it's right at the start of that transient. I'm zooming in with the middle mouse button. Now if we click this first chop, I already got something nice. Now I can also click it on my MIDI keyboard. Now it's on the one-shot mode. If I want it to loop by just pressing it, I can click this button right here. Now it's on loop mode. And I can just hit the button and I don't have to hold it for the sample to continue. Whereas in the other mode, if I just click it and let go, it's going to stop. So keep that in mind, depending on which way you want to play the sample chops. Already gave us some cool ones. I already kind of know what I want though. So this first chop, I know I'm going to want that. I can favorite it right here. So I click on this next chop. I don't really like that one, so we can delete it. Now, when I listen to the song, there's another spot that I heard. Now, let me find it here. It is right here. So once I find the spot, I can zoom in and make sure I'm right on the transient. We'll move it over a little bit. You just click and drag to move it over. Now, you can click that empty spot for a new chop, and it'll put that marker wherever this playhead is at inside Serato. Now, if we click that chop, which will, if we're on the MIDI keyboard, it'll just go up the notes. For me, it starts at C3. Up the notes there, so keep that in mind as well. So I'm going to favorite this second chop, just so I don't accidentally move it around, because if you click and drag, you can move chops and put them in a different position on your MIDI keyboard. And actually, I'm actually going to unfavorite this chop, delete it, and put a new one right here. So it's actually right here where I want it. Once again, I can zoom in and click on the top of the marker to drag it where I want. Now you can also click on the bottom and drag certain parts just to highlight that. So if we only have this little bit right here, it will only be that when we click it. So you can keep that in mind as well. We'll just drag that back. All right, so we're gonna favorite that and let's look for some more chops. I like this one right here. So if we want to keep it in order with our other chops, I'm just going to click and drag it so it's the next key going up. So I also like this chop. And I'll favorite that and I'm going to drag it over. And I'm going to delete the chop right next to it. Because on this one, there's a certain part that I hear that I want to be the next chop. So I can click the key when I hear that part and it will automatically mark it or get it pretty damn close. So if we listen to this and I get ready to hit this other key, so right here is where I wanted it, and once again it got it pretty close. So if we go over to it, and yeah, that's like pretty much on. We already got 5 chops. We'll keep listening. All right, I think that's all we're gonna get. But what you can also do is, since we have all of the chops that we want favorited, if we hit find samples, it will look through the whole song again and find different samples for the unfavorited chops. So now we have a different selection to choose from. So let's try to come up with a pattern here by just messing with the chops that we got and come up with a loop first, and then we'll start adding drums and everything else. We're going to talk more about all of these settings here soon. Let's just get a loop first. All right, so I know how my chops are going to sound. Let's record this in real quick. I'm going to right click on the recording button, make sure notes and automation is on, click it and hit play. So I messed up a little bit, but it's all right. We can mess with it if we go into the piano roll here. So what I'm going to do next is quantize it a little bit. So if we zoom all the way out and quantize it, it's going to be pretty bad. What we got to do is actually kind of zoom into the grid and then do it, and it will be more on where we need it to be. But we're going to have to mess with it in here. Let's just listen to see how it sounds. So right here, I already know it's off grid. I can see it's off grid there, and I heard it was off grid. I'm just gonna click and drag it over. Same thing with this next one here. And these should be moved over a little bit as well. So I'm going to control left click to highlight them, and I can just click and drag. And this one's off, so I'll just bring it over. I can already see that these next chops are off. See, we messed up a little bit, but it's easy to get it back on. Once again, control left click, and I'm going to left click and drag it over. Know where it needs to be out of a lot of practice, but you can also look at the grid and see where these chops need to be on the bars or whatever. Like for these micro chops, I needed to hit on each one of these grid lines here. You can just visually see that, and you can hear it too if you listen. Really try to learn the grid and use your ears to know where the chops need to be, because you sometimes might need to hold shift and middle mouse button to move the chop to the left or to the right of the grid a little bit. But I've noticed if you're getting the right chops and finding the right songs to chop, knowing what time signature it's in and all that, you're usually on grid. You're usually good. So keep that in mind. So we'll just keep messing with the chops here, getting them all on point. Now if we do a Control L, it'll just bring all those chops out to length to the next chop. Just like so. All right, cool. So now let's mess with some more of those features inside Serato. So these chops, harsh. So let's go inside Serato and figure out which chop that is. One right here. So once we click it and select it, let's mess with the filter here. If we bring it to the left and listen. As you can hear, put a filter on that chop. Unfortunately, I don't like how it sounds, so I'll have to mess with that chop manually when we are EQing out the sample. But we got other knobs here like level. We can make the chop louder or more quiet. We can bring up the attack and the release of the chop. See, when that attack is up, it does like a fade in on the chop. Bring the attack down, bring the release up. Here it starts punchy and then it kind of fades out. And we can also reverse each chop. So we reverse it. It's pretty harsh. Once again, we're going to have to mess with it when we EQ. We also got these two windows here. We can do a key shift and a time stretch. So we can change the key of each individual chop as well as stretch it to a different BPM essentially. Like we can half it or we can times two it. You can click those multiple times as well. So if we do a half and listen to this chop, sounds like trash because it's very harsh, but we can bring the key down if we wanted to like a negative 12 semitones, or essentially that'd be one octave down. Still the same key. If we do a negative 12, it's just in a different octave. But if it wasn't in that 12th interval, say you were only doing like negative 4, you're changing the whole key in general. Essentially one semitone is what it's displaying here is 100 cents. And if this is in the key of F sharp minor and we bring it down one semitone, that's essentially, we look at a piano roll here, F sharp minor is right here, or the root note of F sharp minor is F sharp right here. If we went down one semitone, that's essentially going down 100 cents. So that would just go down the piano roll to F, making that chop in the key of F. It's very simple terms explaining that, but it is good to know when you're sampling. So we're not going to mess with the key shift or the time stretch really, but just know that it's there. All right, so if I drag this pattern to the playlist, as you can see, it's not exactly on the grid, meaning there's little extra stuff, but that's because I have some fills and stuff in there. It'll be fine when we add drums. I'm going to actually consolidate these chops into a waveform. So while it's in the playlist here, I can right click on the track, consolidate track from track start. It's going to highlight the whole track there and just hit start here. It's going to consolidate that track like so. We can delete the pattern and now we have our chops in a waveform. So if I route it to mixer track 4 by double clicking it, going to the top right here, I'm going to go into the mixer by clicking this view mixer button right up here. Go to insert 4 and let's put on Fruity Love Filter, and I'm going to go to presets and do PC low pass plus phaser. We mess with this a little bit. I'm going to mess with this knob over here on the graph which is messing with the modulation X and Y, and I'm going to bring it up to the top left a little bit. And also mess with the cutoff and the resonance. Let's hear how it sounds. Tail end over here, we can just press C to get the slicer, click and drag, or do shift click to delete it, or to slice it, then we can right click to delete it. This is pretty much ready for some drums. I just did that EQ there, took out some of those harsh frequencies. We're going to probably mess with it more, but I'm actually going to have the drums and the beat making video be a part 2, which will actually drop this weekend, so a little extra video for y'all. But yeah, that's pretty much it on sampling with Serato Sample. It's pretty straightforward. They got a lot of dope features in here and make it very, very easy to get chops and really cut out a lot of the time process if you're just trying to cook up beats. Now, I know a lot of people out there, including myself, love manually getting the chops, like, you know, listening to the song to what we want and finding the chop and then getting it. But it is nice to be able to just hit find samples and hear what it gives us and be like, damn, I wouldn't have even thought of chopping that, but it sounds fire. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind, y'all. That's pretty much it, though. If this video brought you value, please leave a like, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell. Much love, y'all. Peace.